The summer of 2020 was the first time I ventured into the mysterious depths of Clinton Road in West Milford, New Jersey. The legend of the Ghost Boy had intrigued me the most, but this night would forever change my life in ways I couldn't imagine. Summer is the greatest season by a long shot. Nature, warmer weather, and the outdoors are inseparable, in my opinion. When the heat rolls through, I spend more hours outside than inside. It was a warm night in mid-June, a few summers ago, when this happened. I was 17 or 18 at the time. For context, there's a massive nature preserve near my house. When I say massive, I mean it. It's close to 1,000 acres in size. To this day, there are still parts of it that I'm positive I haven't explored. Two of my friends and I agreed to spend a night camping in those woods. Technically, camping there was strictly forbidden and borderline illegal, but we figured there was no chance someone would catch us in this dense forest. We just had to trek as deeply as possible. Chuck was the camping fanatic of the group. I'm telling you, this kid loved cosplaying as a Boy Scout and probably knew close to 100 different knots. Our other friend, Jackson, he was unhappy. That's just how things went when Jackson was involved. I remember the feeling of the gentle summer breeze blowing through my hair as the three of us packed up Jackson's car. The weather was ideal. Not too cold, not too hot. A few minutes later, we found ourselves lugging camping equipment through the woods at like 11:30. Chuck always carried this industrial-grade flashlight with him, so the darkness of the forest wasn't much of an issue. As much as I enjoyed the outdoors, though, traversing through thick woods at this hour was a bit creepy, even with Chuck's flashlight on hand. After close to half an hour of straight walking, the three of us found ourselves in a small, flat clearing that was an ideal spot to set up camp. We pitched our tent as per Chuck's instruction and set our chairs up. The fire was the next step. Chuck once again took the lead on this, and after a few more minutes, we had a pretty decent fire going. Jackson reached into his basket and tossed me another drink. He then grabbed his JBL speaker and started playing some music. The vibe was perfect, and we must have been talking for a good 2 hours. And I could tell the other guys were just about ready to pack it up for the night. Jackson turned the music down, and just then, a deafening whistle pierced the silence. I nearly jumped out of my seat. I don't know how to describe it. The whistle was abnormally loud, but still sounded distant. Jackson quickly shut the speaker off, and the three of us sat in silence as we exchanged concerned looks. I could feel my heartbeat pounding through my chest. We sat there frozen in place for what seemed like forever, listening intently to our surroundings, but there was nothing. It almost seemed quieter now than it had been when we first got there, like eerily quiet. Not even the normal woods sounds you come to expect. I used that time to replay the whistle back in my head. It definitely wasn't an animal's noise. The best way I can describe it is a standard whistle you would hear at a ballpark. Chuck finally broke the silence, quietly urging us to pack up and leave. Jackson and I disagreed with that plan, though. We might risk encountering whoever made the noise, which I was beyond terrified of. It was past 3 a.m. at this point, and an encounter this late would only mean trouble. Chuck hypothesized that whoever made that noise was probably aware of our presence, which was a chilling thought. I didn't know what to do. On one hand, staying put violated every survival instinct I had. Packing up and leaving at this hour didn't seem like a much better option either, though. We finally agreed to wait it out. I went to put the fire out, but Chuck cautioned me against it, saying that a fire would repel any dangerous animals. Only then did the true gravity of the situation hit me. We were literally miles away from any civilization. It was 3 a.m. and there was an unknown entity somewhere in the darkness. Another 10 minutes or so passed, and we had resumed talking, but at a much lower volume with no music. I don't think any of us felt safe going to sleep just yet, though. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. Something small flew over the darkness of Jackson's shoulder and landed directly in the fire. It was a coin. I screamed as it clinked into the flames, and Chuck cursed as he sprang up out of his chair, bolting into the darkness. Jackson and I scrambled to follow, leaving all of our stuff behind. We caught up with Chuck, whose flashlight was beaming wildly through the woods as he frantically sprinted. We ran until we couldn't anymore, and Jackson keeled over, catching his breath. Chuck shut the light off, and the three of us stood there, panting, trying to figure out if we were being followed. To my surprise, it didn't seem like anyone had pursued us. I don't think I've ever been so afraid, though. Why in the world would someone have done that? We needed to figure out what to do. Jackson wanted to just find our way out of the woods and never come back, but Chuck was reluctant to leave all of his camping gear behind. Plus, he reminded us the fire was still active. I was dumbfounded. How could he be concerned with putting out the fire after what had just happened? Eventually, I agreed with Chuck that we should at least check on the site. After all, no one had actually chased us, so there was a slight possibility that whoever threw that coin was just playing a cruel prank. Chuck was a navigational expert and was actually able to retrace our steps. I could make out the glow of the fire as we quietly approached. Before I could get any closer, though, Jackson put a hand in front of me and pointed with a horrified look on his face. I strained my eyes to make out the sight in the distance. What I saw is probably the most terrifying thing I'd ever laid eyes on. There on the bridge was a figure, small, barely visible in the dim light, but unmistakably there. It stood motionless, staring at us with eyes that seemed to glow faintly. The air around us grew colder, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. I could see it more clearly now, a boy, no older than 10, his face pale and his clothes soaked. He raised his hand slowly, and in it was another coin. Before I could react, he flicked the coin toward us. It made no sound as it hit the ground, but I could feel the weight of it, as if it had struck me in the chest. My breath caught in my throat as I watched the boy turn and walk off the bridge, disappearing into the darkness. We didn't stick around to see what happened next. We bolted back to Jackson's car, never looking back. By some miracle, we weren't followed out of the woods. None of us spoke on the drive back, each of us lost in our thoughts. The next day, Chuck insisted we return to the site in the daylight to collect his belongings. Jackson wanted nothing to do with that, but I agreed to accompany Chuck. After some searching, we eventually found the site, which looked mostly untouched. But as we approached the bridge, the air grew cold again, and the sound of coins hitting the water echoed around us. We didn't stay long enough to investigate further. We grabbed Chuck's gear and left as quickly as we could. None of us have ever gone back to Clinton Road since that night, and we've never spoken about what we saw. Some things are better left buried in the dark.